Hello everyone, it's Skull Connor. I hope you're well. If you want to start making HD Applier for the new Rebirth RoX heads, this is where it's going. We will review the different kind of Applier available, the Devkit available for you, the prerequisites and everything you need to know on the subject. First of all, a quick look at the conceptual stacking of BOM, HD and FX layers, where you can see that the HD layers, subject of this video, come in between the BOM and FX layers. You will have access to 8 layers, divided into 2 parts, which are the HD and the extras, all working on the same principle of realization and implementation, with some differences however that we will detail throughout this tutorial. And concerning the prerequisites, you will simply need Photoshop and the Devkit available on the Rebirth website, Discord, the marketplace and in World. The Devkit contains Photoshop actions in ATN format that you will have to install by double-clicking on it, and which loads here. Like this. And which will be used to automate specific conversion. We will come back to this in a moment. We have in the HD and FX folders a series of Photoshop Devkit for the HD and a PDF document that will serve as a reference for configuring the appliers. The Photoshop Devkit have roughly the same organization. For the eyebrows one, for example, we have a home page identified in red that I hide right away. And here we have the corresponding UV. In the case of the lips, here you also have the home page that I hide. And here we have the HD layer that interests us. I hide some information. Like this. No need to use the folders in blue, which are in fact used for FX. It is therefore this HD texture that will have to be exported to configure our applier, but thanks to the actions, we also have the alternative of converting your work into a 2K BOM or Evo X version directly by clicking on the corresponding action, such as HD to 2K BOM lips here. It is useful to give choice to users and create original effects by superimposing the BOM and HD layers. Since we are talking about actions, I take this opportunity to give you some tips and tricks, because you will potentially face situations where things may not go as planned. If an action stops in the middle of processing, leaving your working document in an unstable state, you can at any time open the history and click here on the RoX snapshot, which will restore your document exactly to the state it was in before launching the action. And if you launch an action several times, you will also have to confirm the creation request. I use the HD to 2K BOM lips for example. I launch the action. You will also have to confirm the request for creation and replacement of the snapshot. It is safe and it guarantees your document stability. I will not review all the appliers. You are free to explore their content at your convenience, but I will rather focus on the main documentation, to show you how to set it all up. If I had to summarize the process to make an HD applier, it simply consists of setting up a command line detailed here. Using the textures you have already created and configuring an universal Rebirth RoX head applier script that is provided in the Devkit. But before showing you a concrete example, I must first show you this main table, which includes all the parameters of the command line, and where we see that in the case of HD layers and extras, only a few parameters are used, such as textures of course, and also transparency and masking mode, blending, as well as the glow for the HD. And for the eyes, the first parameter allows us to choose between the left, right version or both at the same time. In our command line, all unauthorized parameters must be replaced by lowercase x to respect the format. You have a concrete example here of a command line for HD lips in this column, where we see for example that the first 3 parameters are not used. Here we find a texture with a UUID which is here and 3 other parameters here which correspond to max glow, mask mode, transparency mode. All the other parameters at the end are not used. This is really a concrete example of a command line that you are going to have to use in your applier to configure it. Last important information concerning this table. At the textures line where the number define the number of texture that it is necessary to use to configure such or such HD or extra layer. 1 in the case of the lips for example, but for the beards we have the left and right part, so it will be 2 textures minimum. Still concerning the textures, which are ultimately the most important parameter for our HD and extra layers, I will tell you several things here. In particular that we can configure the diffuse channels but also the materials, and that in the beard case, we could end up needing 2 + 4 = 6 textures in total if you also want to configure the materials, or simply 2 otherwise. Important information regarding the command line structure. When we talk about texture in an applier, we always consider the trio diffuse, specular and normals in this order. This information can be found in several places like here by example, or here in the section relating to HD and extra layers. Concerning the brows, here we specify a diffuse texture. Specular and normals. If we're not using specular or normals, we need to change those values to a lowercase x instead. In the case of HD beards, it's a little more complicated. Here referenced by the number 5 and 6 on this thumbnail, we find the trio diffuse, specular, normals for number 5, diffuse specular, normals also for number 6. In this part, the main Devkit, we will open it for beards. It looks like this. I hide the information that is not useful at first, and for the head, if I hide those layers and only keep the part that interests us, you have this portion there and that one which will be useful to make our apply. We will need to use the actions here. Part 1 and Part 2. So Part 1 here and Part 2 there. 3 and 4 possibly, but it does not concern the beards directly, so for the export of Part 1 I launch the action. I confirm. Wait a few moments. And here is the final format that will be used for the right part of the beard of our applier. Concerning the hairbases, which according to the documentation require 4 diffuse textures to be used in our appliers, we have the hairbase UV here, and this time we will prefer using the first action here at the top. I'll give you an example by validating the first 2 operations, where this action will sequentially generate the different textures that will be necessary to configure the applier, corresponding to HD hairbase. You can repeat the process afterwards to generate the specular and normal parts which are relative to the materials in SL. At the end of this texture creation, we find the document such as it was in the state just before launching the action. And to finish with the documentation, I invite you to look at the examples which are here, the references to the HD and extra layers that are identified here, some tips and tricks in this section, and finally at the end of the document the part relating to the applier's creation with the Rebirth RoX head applier script that we are going to implement in SL directly through an applier simulated by an SL prim. In which I just put the Rebirth RoX head applier script. I have to configure the next owner's rights so that this one is copy or transfer version but not both at the same time. Generally it will be rather the copy option for designers. In the lips example, I'm going to click on the HUD applier. I choose the HD version. We choose the lips. Then a message appear in the chat that tells us to copy in channel number 1 the command line that we have previously created. So I directly write /1, space and I paste the command line and validate. The applier tells that it is now ready, and to make it work we will need the HUD of the head itself, and when we click on the applier we should see the texture appears on the lips. There is a HUD confirmation telling things went well, a warning in chat and a warning sound, and we see that the applier has been activated. This tutorial is ending. Thank you for watching it. Do not hesitate to contact me in World or on Discord if you have any questions or encounter difficulties in implementation. Do not hesitate to consult the other videos which could also interest you for FX layers, for example. I wish a good day to all Rebirth friends and see you very soon on SL.